Sometimes you hear stories, and I'll talk from the point of view of Ghana. You hear stories of like people in parliament, politicians storing cash in their home, like storing
Mm,
money in their home, money that's meant to be for the nation. They're
mm,
storing money in their home, or money that's meant to be for a project that's going to benefit the nation, but
mm.
it's stored in one person's home. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Pick and Chat podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you haven't checked out our recent episode on healthy competition, make sure you check it out. It's in there. Go on our YouTube channel, subscribe to the channel, and check out some of the episodes on there. Today, we have another juicy topic for you. But before we start, as we always do, Dennis is going to be giving us a business insight.
Yeah, we're here once again. Today's insight is on starting up. As simple as it sounds, is starting up. And one thing that I want to stress on is that now people are afraid to start businesses or a startup. Let's say a tech startup because they are afraid they might lose money. I'm here today to tell you how to start up without losing money, how to go very simple with very little money. So one thing that everybody needs to know is when you are starting a business and everybody says that everything is so good, that means you took too long to start.
Mm.
Yeah, your business should be somewhere that if you look at it like in the from a year after, you should be ashamed of yourself of what you've done. I mean, you should be ashamed to really, I mean, associated with such a business. That means you started at a time where you were a novice, you didn't know what you were doing, and you really grew in the process. So when you're starting a business, don't wait till you get all the money, don't wait till you get all the funding. You should just do something that is the minimal thing that represents a business. I'll use my company as an example. Proceed. When we started with just an app scanner. Yeah, we didn't know how far I could get. We didn't know how we're going to iterate or pivot. But when we started, it was very simple. Now, when we look back, we are even sometimes shy to say that this is what we were doing. Now we have a whole big infrastructure,
Mm.
which does invoicing, manage so many dashboards and many reporting tools, and that is how it works. So get a minimum viable product, which
Mm.
is called an MVP. So if you want to, let's say, do an app or start a business that take care of people's nails, just get just one person. And what do you want to do to your nails? Just paint it a white color. When you are able to perfect that, then you can add more colors. That's the meaning of
Mm.
minimum viable product. You are doing the most minimum thing that is useful. And when somebody, I mean, is up for it, then you go. Then again, you have to also check one thing first. Whatever you want to do, is it needed? Is it useful? If it is somebody ready to pay for it? Because mind you, it's business and business runs on profit. We do business for profit. So the moment you cannot determine that people are ready to pay for your services or product, no matter how good and useful it is, it will be a hobby. So hobbies and businesses, there are differences between that. A hobby is a thing that is needful, you like, you do it, and a business is something that is useful, you like, you do it, but somebody is ready to pay for it, and that should be it. And once you've gone that, you have to put a business out there, and that again, I would advise you to go into paid adverts. You should go organic, so you can do content around it. Now there is TikTok, it's very easy to just rant about the business, how good it is. Yourself can use yourself as a brand ambassador for your own business. Talk about how it works. If it's about candles you want to do, just do settings in your house. Look, let it put some candles in there. Show how nice candles look, and the moment you get people getting on your content, you start selling your candles to them, and that's very simple. So organic marketing is one thing you should go. um I would also say that you should also join conversations. You can join communities where people already love candles, where people already like what you're trying to sell, and join communications, join conversations, DM people. I'm like, okay, I heard you talk about this at a time. I have a product for it. Do you think you like it? It will
Mm.
shock you how many people that will want to use your product just because they feel like there's a personal touch. Then again, there is one thing that people underestimate, that is building in public. If you're not afraid and if you're not worried to fail, when you're building, start putting everything out there in public. And people like natural stories. When people follow you, they know how you're doing. You come and share your failures. You share how sales went, how things didn't go well, some decisions you want to take. You come and take public sourcing on it, where you ask people, what do you think we should do about this? They make their inputs. You DM them. Oh, you said we should do this way. When you do it, are you ready to pay for it? Most of the time, people will pay for things they helped you to do. and that's also how to acquire customers. Then the last thing you do, which people don't think they should do, and you never get it until you do, is to ask for referrals.
Mm.
So when you get people buying it, call them, DM them, tell them, oh, I thought you bought, I heard you bought this. I've seen you bought this product of mine. You called for my services. Did you like it? If you didn't like it, how should you improve it? When you have implemented the improvements they asked you to, ask them to bring one more person, or let them tell you who they think will also be interested, and go to them directly. I
Mm.
tell you, this is no zero cost. It just costs you your internet and you are done. So this is the easiest way to start up from my point of view. You can also share in the comments how you think it's easy for you to start up. And if you have any questions, drop it and we answer them. All right.
Yay. So you can go ahead and start that business from, this insight from Dennis. We hope that it's helpful. Share your comments, share anything you want to share with us in the comments below. And if you have any other questions about starting a business, Dennis shares some daily insights on his LinkedIn page around starting a business, encouraging people to start their own businesses, motivating entrepreneurs. So definitely check out his LinkedIn page. Just when you go on LinkedIn, type in Dennis Akoto, he will come up. And yeah, you can find more insights on his LinkedIn page. All right. So today, as I mentioned earlier, we have another juicy topic for you. And today we're talking about something that we have a lot of personal experiences on, and that is the African mindset and wealth.
Mm.
The African mindset and wealth. We're going to try and share some personal experiences on that. We're Africans. Dennis and I are Africans. We're both from Ghana. And money or wealth is an interesting topic when it comes to Africans. So we're going to
Mm.
share our insights on it, our own experiences on it, and we want you to join in the conversation in the comments below. Check out some of the content that we post on Instagram about it as well, and yeah, get involved.
Don't ask me the
So,
first question.
all right, Dennis is always saying that I always asking the first question. So today I will kind of throw this out there.
Mhm.
When it comes to Africans and wealth, personally, I feel that we've come a long way when it
Mhm.
comes to wealth. I feel that our mindset concerning wealth has progressed.
Mm.
Growing up, money or building wealth was something that I was told to aspire to do.
Mm.
But as a lady, I feel that building wealth was not really something that I was encouraged to do, as in right from the grassroots. So a lot of the things that I was hearing growing up was, oh, as a lady, you should aspire to marry into a wealthy family
Mhm.
so that you can acquire wealth.
Mhm.
But I wasn't really told that, oh, you need to make your own wealth or get
Mhm.
your own wealth. It was more of, okay, ensure that you marry into a wealthy family, or ensure that
Mm.
you marry a man who wants to have wealth, so that automatically that wealth will become yours as well. So when I say that, when I say that our mindsets have progressed when it comes to wealth,
Mm.
I think it really has, because now I don't I don't want to say it's not that common, because I think it still is. A
Mm.
lot of women, not even just African women, across the globe are probably
Mm.
encouraged to marry
Mm.
into wealth
Mm.
for various reasons. But when it comes to Africans, I believe that a lot of things have changed, where even we are finding different ways to make our own wealth,
Mm.
especially being young and African.
Mm.
Growing up, the ideas that a lot of young Africans have now, when I was growing up, I didn't really see those
Yeah.
things. So we are coming up with really genuine creative ideas and
Mm.
ways of making wealth. So I'll throw that out there.
Mm.
What do you think, Dennis, when it comes to the African mindsets and wealth?
I believe it depends on how we understand wealth, because um, wealth is something that lasts generations, and that would mean there should be a clear plan to attaining or acquiring wealth,
Mm,
or to get some status where they say this is a wealthy person, a wealthy woman, a wealthy man, or a wealthy family. It needs clear plan, and you can never get there unless you plan. So, for instance, if I want to leave enough wealth for my grandchildren, I don't have to have a job because I cannot pass on my job role to my grandchildren. I need to have a business
Yeah.
that could be passed on to my children, that my children to be would also pass on to their children and to their children's children. What it also means is that my children need to acquire the skills that I have or more to be able to sustain that business in their generation.
Mm.
So that doesn't say if you are trying to live businesses, you should let all your children just think business. They should be educated to run businesses.
Mm.
Typical example. People think when you're doing business, all it means is that everybody in your family should be a business person. No. I, as a business person, can set up a health institution, a big clinic that is, I mean, taking care of people and making money. My children could be either doctors in the firm, or could be administrators, or could be project managers in the firm. You need all of these
Mm.
people. So where you put your family in the business you've created depends on how far they can take it. So if I'm going to set up a business that is a plumbing business, there is nothing of a worry if I train my child to become a plumber. That's if they want to.
Yeah.
So setting up businesses doesn't mean you are just aspiring all your family to be business people. So when we have this mindset that we need to work for our own selves, or we need to set up institutions that we can run and family and friends can all come in and it could be retained in terms of equity, then we can have a conversation about how to train our kids, how to, of course, we're in a world where people choose what to do. That is fine. We're not supposed to impose our careers on people, but you should also give them some chance because whoever came to this world were dependent on their parents, and it was what their parents showed them that they got affiliated to. So if my daddy was an academic, there's a high chance of me having good affinity for academics,
Mm.
and that is so nice. You get it. So if you set up legacies and wealth, creating strategies in the family, that is where the kids go on. But what we grew up to see, not all of us, some of us grew up to see, was parents who did not have that clear plan because they are not where they want you to be.
Yeah.
So now you don't have parents who are telling you to do what they've done or suggesting what they've done to you if you like it. You have parents who cannot even read your report. And that is the biggest worry. So the change you are talking about is because now we have more educated parents who can educate their children at home. Back then, 95% of people who were in school had illiterate parents,
Yeah.
and their parents could not even read their reports. And whatever you do is so good because, first of all, you can even speak English, and they couldn't speak English. And at the time, I'm sorry to say, even speaking English was a mark of how higher you're going academically.
Mm.
It's a worry to say, but so it was at the time. So it was a very big worry. But the good thing is things have changed now. Now many Africans are educated. Many Africans know how to use the internet. Many Africans are big on tech, and it is really informing how they are raising their kids and how they are communicating among each other. So
Yeah.
we've come a long way, we admit, but it's way better today. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Africans are building with, I believe. Do you think we should do
Yeah.
more? Or we should go the pace we're going?
I I feel that our understanding on wealth some years ago too was really different. So,
Mm,
but I think it's still there now. But I think back in the day, a lot of emphasis was placed on having buildings, having
mm,
infrastructure, and that was seen as wealth. So
yeah.
where I grew up in Kumasi, and I used to hear my uncles and even my grandparents talk a lot about, oh, we need to build a house. We need to build a house so that
Mm,
when the children grow up, they will have something. Or we need to build
mm,
houses. We need to build this. We need to build that. Wealth, to have wealth was seen as if you have buildings.
mm-hmm.
So the older I got, I remember in primary school, there were children in my primary school who were known because of buildings that their grandparents had
Yeah.
in the community.
Yeah.
So there were names that were known in the community mainly because of the buildings and
Mm-hmm.
how buildings were named after the owners.
Yeah.
And that was a big deal. Like
Mm,
wealth was seen in the infrastructure that people held. It
mm,
wasn't even just a matter of the money you had.
mm.
And I'm sure maybe where you're from or where your parents are from, so there are household
It's
names
the same thing.
that
Yeah.
they are known because of the buildings they own,
Yeah.
and they are known because of the edifices that they were able to
Those
put
build.
up.
Yeah.
So that was the definition of wealth when I was growing up personally. Being able to own um in She they would say abrosign, like story
Yeah,
buildings,
yeah.
being able to own story buildings,
Yeah.
being able to own huge things that people will pass and they will see, oh wow, that's the
Mm.
Akoto Sapon family,
Yeah.
that's their
They used to write their
building.
names on the buildings. Yeah.
Exactly. And as, as I was growing up, as a child, even I used to admire that. I'm like, oh wow, I can't wait to grow up and have my own house, or I
Mm.
can't wait to grow up and have my own building.
Mm.
And I don't know whether that has that has in a way, as Africans, or even as Ghanaians, just even thinking about myself and my family, I don't know if that has closed our minds a bit to the different ways that we can acquire wealth.
Mm.
Because within my family, anyway, up until today, I know
Mm.
is a desire of my parents to have their own buildings
Mm.
back home. And by the grace of God, it's something that people in my family have been able to achieve. But even more, they want to have more buildings
Yeah.
in where they come from, so that they can be known as, oh,
The
look at
wealthy
their
family.
Chambon family. They have their own buildings.
Mm.
Oh, look at all these houses. It belongs to their Chambon family. And
Mm.
yeah, it's cool. But at the same time, I feel that when we are so focused on one way of making wealth, our minds get closed up to different ways that we
Mm.
can make wealth as well. So
Mm.
for example, as being in the UK, and this is something that I've discussed with a family member of one of my cousins. We were talking about how we should try and acquire wealth in this nation,
Yes. Yes.
because this
Yeah.
is where we're living. Our children are going to grow up here.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, but we're not from here. Eventually we're going to go back home.
Mm.
So she wants to focus her attention on building wealth
Yeah.
back
Back home.
home, so that when it's time for her to go back home, she will have something there. And I was a bit like, okay, fine. But I've observed that a lot of Africans have that mindset
Yeah.
that
The first are there.
let me build back home, because eventually I'm going to go back home. I was having a conversation with a Caribbean lady, and she made a really interesting point. And I'm not sure if that's the difference between Africans and the Caribbeans.
Mm.
She was like, the difference she sees from herself and her parents is that they always had somewhere to go back to.
Mm.
But she was born in this country. She was not born in the Caribbean. She was born
Mm.
here. And she doesn't feel like she has anywhere to go back to. This is her
This is
home.
home. Yeah.
And she wants to build everything here.
Mm.
But her parents are very much, well, one day we're going to go back.
Mm.
They have a one day to look forward to. She doesn't
Mm.
have that.
Mm.
So her wealth making is focused on here. And she was saying that she feels like her parents are missing out
Mm.
by not looking at wealth making in this country,
Yeah.
but looking at wealth making back home, because they are looking forward to that one day when they will sit
Mm.
at home in their 5 bedroom house or 5 bedroom mansion,
Mm.
relax, have people serve them. And it's a mindset that
Yeah.
I think cuts across to even Africans as well. And I don't know what's going to help us to move away a little bit from that mindset, because I think it closes us up from looking at different ways of making wealth.
Yeah. Yeah. From that point, I think many people have lost out on it because everything about wealth is on cash flow. It's when your assets are giving you more money than your liabilities are taken from you.
Mm,
So if you build a house in Africa, that will cost you £40,000, and that house over 10 years will make you just like £10,000. And if you invest the same amount of money in a house in the UK, it gives £40,000, and it gives you £40,000 in 10 years. Clearly, you should know that you should
yeah.
invest in the UK. But the whole thing is it's about ego as well. Like you
Mm,
say, you want to make a point, you want to build in a place where people know you and can see this you're building. So many people are building in Africa because we all grew up seeing people's name on their houses, not as in written, but in Africa. And let me tell you, there is one thing: if you pass by a house and the house is nice, we all know who the house is for.
yeah.
Yes. So people want to put up gargantuan houses where people say, yeah, this is Mr. and Mrs. Champon's house. And that is very nice. And I tell you, if you are building because of that, it is totally servicing your ego. There is no cash flow. So
Mm,
you have nieces, grandchildren, kids who grow up who cannot maintain this house. And that means you are negative cash flowing.
mm.
The same amount of money that was able to put up that big house in Africa could just buy a 3 bedroom in UK, but it will cash flow you positive.
Sorry, on that point,
Yeah.
before you move on, Do you think young Africans like
Mm.
ourselves who are in the UK, do you think we should focus on building homes or building houses back home?
Yeah,
The way our parents are set on doing that, do you think we should have that same mindset? We should focus on making building wealth back home by building houses or getting into real estate
yeah.
back home.
So it depends on what stage in your life you build out the house back home. I honestly would say I would definitely build a big mansion in Africa, but it is not now. I need that asset that will take care of that home because that is just my ego. That is
Mm,
just me proving a point. That home is not for money making. It is just to say that, look, I have landed. It's to make a statement.
yeah.
I won't build it now. Why?
Okay.
I would now, in the first place, buy a home in the UK, buy another home in the UK. That will give me £800 a month. And that money can take care of all of those luxury. Because if you build a home in Africa and it's so big and you're not living in it, what it means is that you are just living luxury. Because you can afford to have a house with 7 bedrooms and you live in it for once a year. That is a holiday home. So who builds a holiday home first before they build their main home?
The main home.
What is your
Okay.
main home? It's where you live for most part of your life in a year. So if you live in any place for more than 6 months in a year, that is your abode.
Mm,
So if you are in the UK, in the US, Australia, Canada, and you are living in Australia, Canada for at least in the UK more than 6 months in a year, that is your main home. So
okay.
is it reasonable to build your main house or to buy your main house at a place where you live less of your life? Any house that you live less of your life in, as I've mentioned, is a holiday home. So if you have any amount of money to acquire a home, why would you invest the money in a holiday home instead of a main home?
Mm,
Why would you have to be renting and paying rent to people, which is a liability, instead of getting your own home and let the house appreciate, pay off your mortgage, which is always going to be equity to you before you think about that home in Africa. So it is just for Africans to understand that if you are living outside Africa and you are building a home in Africa, it's a holiday home. And holiday home is for the rich. It's a luxurious thing to say that I have a home that I visit for just a month in a
yeah.
year.
In a
So
year.
that brings us back to how Africans think about wealth. When they think about wealth, their ego interferes in cash flow.
Mm, that hurts.
Yeah,
Because it's true.
yeah,
It's
you cannot have wealth without having cash flowing assets.
yeah.
What is a cash flow asset? When I have a car in the UK and I'm using it for Uber and I'm able to get £500 a month profit and pay the cost of the car, let's say £250, and pay my insurance and everything, that means I am having a free car.
Mm,
That is if I do Uber part time. That is an asset. So, in as much as car can be a liability, my car can be an asset. So, I am using a car in the UK for free because I am able to pay for it with just the services I render with the car. If my colleague buy the same car and puts it in a garage in Africa and says, "Oh, when I go, I want to chill," and use that car once a period, let's say 3 weeks that they visit Africa, that is a serious liability
mm,
because the car is depreciated. If you bought it for £15,000, it's going to be depreciated. And man, you are even going to pay import duties on the car. So if you let me tell you guys, Africans are rich because whatever life you live in Africa, people pay twice the amount you pay for in the UK before
mm.
they can use it. When you buy a car for £10,000 in UK and you ship it to Africa, you pay freight. That's freight. We call it freight on board. The cost of the car plus some insurance that you pay for to ship it. So the freight is actually how much you pay to ship it.
Okay.
Then again, you pay duty. When you pay all of these things, it costs you almost twice the amount of the car you bought in Africa. But go to Africa, there is
Big
traffic in
cars.
Africa. When you go to Nigeria, you just run through Nigeria traffic in Lagos. You will see Rolls Royce, you see Bentley, you see all the cars that you will not meet in a regular street in London.
Mm-hmm.
And this is Nigeria. And the whole point is these guys most of the time have the cars in garages. So wealth is being put in places which will show off as ego. Money is being used for assets which should have been put in businesses. So why should people have Rolls Royces in Africa and they are not having businesses that can let people benefit to even buy bicycles? That is a worry. So people's egos have really compounded the money to places where they're not supposed to be. And that is how come you have people hustling in the UK, in the US. They make so much money and they buy a super car in Africa and they go to ride in it and just get known for the cars, and that is it. So the way to go that I would say is just to think about a simple thing in building wealth: cash flowing assets. If your daddy is going to build a house and the house is going to cost you £4,000 a year to just maintain the house in terms of losses, your daddy has not left you an asset. He left you a liability. You get my point?
Yeah.
And that's how it should be. But if your daddy left you just 2 flats and those flats are going to give you £800 a month, what else can you do? I mean, passive income
Yeah.
plus whatever you're making. So it's about ego. If we take away ego and think about cash flow, then we would understand the importance of not deciding to just put up big mansions. And I'll also think about one thing, talk about one thing that is going in Africa that people don't really see. There are so many uncompleted structures. And I'm happy you brought about the buildings, because that is the thing that is eating Africa. There's so much money, billions of dollars tied in uncompleted structures. And it's going to take us another 10 years for all of these structures to get completed. And trust me, these are not affordable homes that can even rent. These homes are going to be occupied by single maids or a few nephews who are just going to be using it to be having ungodly sex, which is so wrong. You get it? Meanwhile, there should be those money should be monies that are put into businesses that will employ Africans. And if we're able to cultivate this habit for at least the next 5 years, it is just going to end so well for us. We're going to cash flow positive and all. So I know you have many examples of how the wealth situation. And to be fair, we're not saying that Africans are not wealthy. They are wealthy, but these are some of the things that we are not, distributing the wealth properly. Yeah.
Do you think when it comes to wealth, Africans have a greedy mindset towards wealth?
Everybody. Yeah.
So not just Africans.
Yeah, so Africans, everybody has that greedy mindset. But the thing is, if you are greedy enough to acquire $10 billion, are you using your ego to overpower people, or you are distributing it into economies, which will make you profit, but people can also make money from? Yeah, so I would say you should just go on with some examples, because greed is real, for everybody, and Africans are into it. Yeah.
The reason why I asked about whether you think Africans have a greedy mindset when it comes to wealth is because sometimes you hear stories, and I'll talk from the point of view of Ghana. You hear stories of like people in parliament, politicians, storing cash in their home, like storing money in their home, money that's meant to be for the nation. They're storing money in their home, or money that's meant to be for a project that's going to benefit the nation, but it's stored in one person's home. And for me, I don't understand that. It doesn't make sense. For example, here, so we live in the UK. I don't know if the Prime Minister has the nation's money stored in his home, or money that's allocated to education, or money that's allocated to healthcare in his home. It doesn't work that way. And for me, when I hear things like that, when I hear that someone, let's say, for example, the Minister of Education or the Minister for Women and Children has money allocated to women's health in her home or in his home, it makes me think of greed.
Yeah.
Why does that person have that money in their home? It's not for them. The money is for the nation. Why is it being stored there? Their home is not a bank. And for me personally, when I reflect on things like that, it makes me think about greediness.
Yeah.
And it draws my mind to the fact that as Africans back in the day, we were not really given a lot, or even things that belong to us were taken away from us. When you think about colonialism, when you think about slavery, because things that were ours were robbed of us. I feel that sometimes we want to hoard things. We want to kind of keep things to ourselves in a way that is wrong, in a way that comes from a place of greediness. Because as a politician, the nation's money is not your money. So it shouldn't be kept in your house. The nation's money belongs to the nation. It needs to be kept in a place where money like that is kept. So I believe that we've come a long way, but even just moving away from talking about politicians, because that could be going forever, even the normal person in Africa, or even Africans in the diaspora, our mindset on money, I think we still have a lot of work to do. And I'll use myself as an example. I've really had to work on understanding how to spend money and also how to save. I feel like it took me a while to understand that I'm working. I don't need to always be working. And oh, I need to save. I need to save. I need to
Mm.
save. It got to a time where I had to really just sit there and think, what am I saving for?
Sure, yeah.
The things that you're saving for, when you've got the money, why are you not buying it? It
Yeah.
was almost as if I was scared that the money was going to
Endless,
go.
yeah.
And I wasn't enjoying money the way that I felt like I
Yeah.
needed to. That it came to a time where my husband was like, "We need to spend this money. We're working for this
Yeah.
money. Let's spend some of it.
Yeah.
We need to enjoy some of it. We can't just be saving. There were certain things we wanted to do. Yeah, we've done it. Now let's enjoy some of the
Yeah.
money, and then we can focus
That's
on
legit,
saving
yeah.
for other things. And I believe that it has something to do with me being African.
Sure.
Because growing up, the focus is on we need to save money.
Save money,
We
yeah.
need to save money because we need to build a house. We
Yeah.
need to save money because we need to do this. And constantly we were saving and we were not spending money.
Yeah.
And when you look at, like I said, some of the nations in Africa, there's a lot of focus on wealth being in the hands of one person.
Mm.
Like whether it's money, whether it's infrastructure, whatever it is that we account to be wealth, it's in the hands of one person, and it can be quite difficult for them to distribute it. And it's almost as if they distribute it according to their terms.
Okay.
And that doesn't help us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. From that, I think I'm not debunking what you're saying, but greed is amidst every race, every country, because it was greed that made white people go to Africa to rob them of their gold.
Yeah.
You get it? But
Good
the
point.
thing is, there should be a system that controls people. And there are systems when people cannot be trusted. That is why jobs have systems, companies have systems. Systems involve people and processes. So when processes fail, the system has failed. When people fail and the process works, the system has still failed. Systems only work when people and processes are not failing. So if people want to fail, there will be a process to correct them. White people are greedy. Chinese are greedy. What other race? If you go to Antarctica, they are greedy. Everybody is greedy. But the system corrects them. You cannot hold 100,000 pounds in your home. In the UK, you can't even spend it. Why? Because the system will not allow you to. But in Africa, people can have £1 million in their homes, and there's no system to check it. So when there is a good system, then we can all say that nobody will be greedy, because you don't have to be.
Yeah.
Because even if you are, there is no point in being greedy because you can. There are a lot of poor white people, a lot of poor people in America living in the street. There are white people living in the streets of America, and black people are in houses. But in general, the country is wealthy.
Yeah.
So let me make a point. If you come to the UK, not everybody is rich, but we live in a wealthy country where country can say, I'm giving poor people money. I'm giving every child benefit. And that is it. So Africa, in making wealth in Africa, doesn't mean individuals should be too wealthy. There should be a system that will make the country a wealthy country. And that is how it works. So greed, if not controlled by a system, everybody can be greedy. Let's take away the systems in the UK. Let's take away the anti-money laundering system in the banks in the UK. Let's take away the all the things that check how much money you can keep, how you pay your taxes in the UK. You would see how many people are greedy in the UK.
Yeah.
Tax avoidance is abundant in the West more than in Africa. We have many white companies trying to go offshore to save their register their companies in countries which will let them save tax. That is greed. That means if there is no system, they will be greedy and nobody will have access to money. But the point is, how is this money being distributed? And that is how the system comes in. So Africa just needs a bigger system, a system that has good processes that can challenge, greediness, and that should work perfectly. Quite apart from that, I think wealth too could also be generational. So we cannot compare now. It would be very unfair to compare Africa to any part of the world, because for generations back, Africans were being put under stress in terms of slavery, and we were literally working for other countries. And now many African countries are independent, so they also have to now take it from where people who were independent in the past are starting from. So it will take time for us to build the systems. What is going on in Africa that people are thinking the government is corrupt is nothing new. It happened in wherever you think are not corrupt, whichever country you think are not corrupt, they also have to face the same issue back then. So we go through it. But the thing is, now we have a lot to look up to. We have a lot to compare to. And that is why it's making us feeling like we are back. But we are not back. We are starting at a place where we have a lot of opportunities. For the first time, not for the first time, for a long while, Africa has the youngest, populace. Let's take Nigeria. Nigeria has Nigeria is one of the most populated countries in the world. The country with most youth in the world. If you go to Harvard, there are more black Nigerians than black Americans. If you go to Oxford, there are more black Nigerians. Nigerians are so powerful. If somebody asked me if you wanted to change your nationality, like if you had the chance to be of any nationality, where would you want to come from? I'm like, I want to come from Nigeria. They're like, you are so stupid. Look, if if the average Nigerian behaves like the way I behave in terms of business, with the touch of their country, they'll make millions. Look, if I sell any business in Ghana, I'm going to sell it to just 30 million people. If I take the same business in Nigeria, I'm looking at over hundreds of millions. That is how come now there are acquisitions of business in Nigeria. That has never happened in the UK.
Yeah.
Paystack in Nigeria sold for $200 million. I mean, few businesses in UK have sold for $200 million. Okay, and this is Africa.
Yeah.
So there's no point to say that we are not there. We are at a place where we can advance so quick, but people are jealous of us because Nigeria alone, like I said, I'm so proud of Nigeria. You can tell. Nigeria alone can just overtake the whole world with just one good system. And people don't want this system to happen. And that is how come things look like a comparison and it looks like Africa is not making it. Africa is better off than half of the countries in this world. And we just need to stay focused and follow a good system.
Okay. So to round up, what's one thing that you feel as an African, as a Ghanaian, what's one thing that you feel like has helped you when it comes to the way you think about wealth?
How Nigerians behave.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They are money makers. They go into firms. They rise. In medicine, you can see more Nigerian doctors than any other African country. Of course, they have the numbers, but they are using their heads. If you go to Harvard, they are there. In startup, in tech, Nigerians are there. They go in for the money. They let you know we are in for the money. We want to create wealth. They are not shy about money. And Nigeria is just one country that everybody should just copy, apart from their government and their governance and corruption. Apart from that, they should not. And even how they are corrupt, it tells you who they are. I mean, even if they are into corruption, Hush Papi made so much money from corrupt practices. And aside it being dubious, look at the empire he ran. It takes a lot to replicate such thing in a decent business. So Nigerians, they are the inspiration. Everybody should look at Nigerians and behave like them in a good way. And I tell you, we will all kill it.
All right. Thank you for that, Dennis. We hope you enjoyed this conversation and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.